Hey guys, so we are going to talk about crypto, which is obviously one of the hottest topics in the world right now with some of the biggest players in the space that I'm joined by on stage here. So I want to start this panel by acknowledging the fact that things are really not that good in the world right now, objectively speaking. The war in Ukraine is obviously not good, and we are on the brink of, unfathomable climate crises. How can crypto alleviate global crises? I'll let whoever wants to start kick it off.
Yeah, I guess I'll start as an NFT artist. When the Ukraine invasion started, with a lot of the humanitarian crisis that was happening, I saw a lot of initiatives in the NFT space, which of course has direct contact with the crypto space, if you may. And people were basically selling NFTs to raise crypto that would be sent to Ukraine to alleviate these humanitarian crises. So I guess that it takes away the trouble of going through maybe a bank or traditional financial institutions as we know, so that these funds don't only get to the people who need it faster, but also you can trace, these funds and know that certainly they have gotten to where they're supposed to go. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess to just reiterate on that point is that like some of the biggest crises in the world are happening because, first of all, there's no one there to address it quickly enough with the proper funding, with the proper resources, but also like it's a big financial problem out there as well, right? When you think about how crypto is revolutioning the way of the financial markets, is that as we think about it today in Web 2, you can send anyone a message instantly, by just having their phone number or WhatsApp. But that should be also done with monetary value as well, being able to transfer funds to one individual or to one entity instantaneously, like how Ukraine, raised a bunch of its funding through crypto. Actually, more than half of the funding came from the cryptocurrency markets, and being able to really funnel that resources almost immediately at the time of need is something that is critical, right? And also, like when we think about poverty, or like when we think about charity, it's like a lot of times the right funding is not going to right places. So putting things on chain and being able to track exactly how that funding is being used to feed people of sort of the emerging markets as they're having these issues. But also it's like a big geopolitical financial issue as well. There's so many people in emerging markets are unbanked, right? So with the start of crypto and blockchain technology, it allows someone with just smartphone access and internet to really spin up a wallet and actually have the right financial access, right? Like as an immigrant coming to the US for the first time when I was little, like, none of my parents had that financial stability, nor were they provided with sort of the banking access. So crypto helps to really alleviate and change all of that.
Besides the financial part, I think another thing really worth mentioning is really about the ownership and also community. Because in the kind of this Web3 world, everything is very decentralized and very unified in other ways. Because, for instance, my team is completely decentralized. I have engineers in Egypt, in Dubai, in San Francisco, everywhere. So in a way, when you raise money or some sort of for a cause, everyone, because they're all in like Web3, they have a digital wallet, they're able to unify way quicker than a traditional way, because it really focuses on geolocation. But in the Web3, it's not. Everything is like more about efficiency, and it's really finding the people resonate with your cause, and to be able to elevate the whole process of transaction. And yeah.
And what you're doing, Jenny, is super interesting. I mean, I'm maybe oversimplifying, but you basically have like the Metaverse version of The Sims. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about like the gamification, and your currency is traded on what, Binance?
And Coinbase.
Coinbase, yeah. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the gamification and the monetization of the metaverse and reality.
Who here has like played VR? I'm just curious. or watch Ready Player One. Okay, so the kind of my background was in virtual reality, so I started VR in 2015, pretty OG. So the idea is that we want to build something that eventually you have like maybe 60% of your life you're in this metaverse that in parallel to your physical world, we can meet friends, you know, like we can hold conferences, we can do all sorts of things. That's in addition to the physical world. And with the pandemic, which is really interesting, really accelerated this whole process. We see, you know, Facebook changing their names to Meta for what reason? Because Web 2 become very saturated, even with a lot of efficiency, but lack of engagement. For instance, if you shop a shoe on Amazon, you don't know much about the brand either, but you're buying that the pair of shoes. That's why, you know, you still go to a physical location. But in the metaverse, which is really interesting, is that you're not limited to physical construction anymore. You can build whatever you want, and that's on the game base. So in a way, you know, we all play Sims or other type of game when we're very young, but what's very different is right now we're able to, for instance, my company, all the in-game items we have is attached to real brand. So for instance, a couple of like a major brand we work with, they have the physical component, but they also have the digital. And in a way, in the digital world, if you buy a pair of sneakers, you might be increase your speed in the game, and you get rewarded in a certain way. So it's a whole complete ecosystem, how we tie Web 2 with Web 3. And we just did a home sale, like a metaverse home sale. So in the secondary market, it was about 10 million trading homes. Then maybe people are asking, why you need a metaverse home, right? And
yeah, why do you need a metaverse home?
I mean, it's the really funny part is that we have community member be like, I'm a renter in real life, but I own 2 apartments in Highstreet. I think psychologically, there's a one part why people are interested in this. Also, you look at the generation, right? I'm growing up in the 90s, so most are physical world. Then gradually we emerge into this more digital world. But if you look at the people who are like, you know, Gen Z, even younger, they grew up with technology. So buying digital asset to them is very obvious and very natural to accept. In a sense. So we see this transition. So gaming is not really just you play Sims trying to simulate anymore. It becomes the next generation social platform. That's why we see this huge potential with Fortnite or Roblox are catered now for people who are using Facebook, this generation. But for the next generation, they're using Block as their social media in a way. Yeah.
Right, so I think that would really make us more united as a world and increase globalization. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you think that crypto is increasing or decreasing globalization? And I'd love to start with you, Osinachi, because you call yourself Africa's first NFT artist. I know you've been doing that since 2017. So I'd love for you to answer that question, and also like relate it to your client base.
Well, when it comes to my client base, I have people who collect my work who are not in Africa, right? In fact, the first people who started collecting my pieces as far back as 2017, 2018 were from the West. And as little as the money was aside then, these people believed in what was happening. They were early in the space. And then coming down to 2019, 2020, 2021, with the Beeple Christie sale and all that, a lot of Africans got to know about NFTs, right? And why many creatives are trying to find their way in the NFT space who are Africans. There are also African collectors, right, who are coming in. Some of them are coming in from the fine art space, traditional art space, because they see what is happening and they want to support African creatives. In addition to, of course, joining in the trends or in the hype that is ongoing. But the truth is that there aren't as many African collectors in the NFT space as there are people from the West who are collecting NFTs. But then the community itself is quite global. There are conversations being had on Twitter, on Discord servers, and it doesn't matter where you're from. You can basically be a part of the NFT space and make connections, build projects alongside people, build projects with people, even become a part of a project, because projects like PFP projects like Avatars, Bored Ape, and the rest of them, these are projects that are collected by people across the world, and they've sort of formed a club, in the digital space, and anybody can be a part of it.
I think another thing really interesting about art, if you look at the traditional hall art market, because in my early 20s, I used to work for Sotheby's, and very traditional. I have no idea how they got into this whole digital craze. So before artists, how it works, you have to have a gallery or a manager. Without that, almost guarantee you can't sell your work, especially for digital artists. Because every day you go through those Instagram, you see some cool art. I could see your art, but I have no relationship with it. It's like, first, how do I pay you, right? Yeah. That's the headache. Secondly, how do I own a digital work of his? That's a headache. So with blockchain, you almost in a way cut off the middle person. Yeah. So I can build relationship with the creator. So that's fundamentally very interesting how it's very disruptive. So I could own his work. Also, I can just pay him crypto. Yeah. And the deal is done, right, without any middle person. But before, it would be like he need a representative in United States, maybe. If he doesn't have a presence, how do I make that connection?
But then these people whom we regarded as middlemen in the traditional art space, of course, in the NFT space, have a new role to play. And it's that of bringing in traditional collectors who trust them right from the start. So if you're a traditional collector, you talk to maybe an art advisor or an art dealer about collecting maybe a Picasso or a Basquiat. Now, this same person who is a middleman can talk to this collector about collecting an Osinachi in the NFT space, and this person trusts this person. So that way, the middleman can actually bring in the collector into the NFT space, and that's a new role for middlemen.
Mm-hmm. What about you, David? Do you feel like globalization is increased or decreased as a result of crypto's prevalence?
Yeah, definitely. I think ultimately, like, blockchain technology and crypto itself, like, it ultimately changes the interoperability nature of ownership, right? So, like, when you think about owning something in the physical space, it's very hard to resell to another individual without going through a ton of paperwork, right? So, when things are being done on a chain, whether it's like your digital asset, your Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any sort of cryptocurrency that you own, you can very easily transfer it to other person. Like, this is very hard to do with things in the physical world, whether it's like your house, your car, or even your stocks, right? When you think about things in the Web3 space, like, pretty much anything can be exchanged in hands, right? Like, being able to spin up a smart contract and really relay sort of the ownership layer to give to someone else, and in exchange, they can send you crypto, which is like a money that can really go beyond sort of international borders and can really facilitate, payments much easier than in the physical world with sort of the SWIFT system, which takes numbers of days and high transaction fees. And also, like, when you think about international presence, right? The company I was working for, it's an exchange based out of China originally, but over the past couple of years has expanded to over 170 countries and 30 million users worldwide. And instead of like the stock market today, where it's only limited to one particular country, like exchanges like Huobi, where I used to work for, and like Binance, Coinbase, et cetera, they serve a lot of the global markets where anyone can come and hold a piece of ownership in a cryptocurrency that has utility beyond, right? And as Jenny was mentioning earlier, it's like social clubs are now not restrained to like whether you live in New York or whether your interest in a particular sport, like it's all very global, right? When you think about a cultural phenomenon, it's like if we believe in sort of the same cultural causes, right? Whether it's charity or whether it's like womenism, like these are all like big leadership cases where people can come together and meet virtually and actually contribute in a meaningful capacity.
Being in Africa, where currencies have been traditionally quite unstable, I imagine that this would be a great use case for crypto. What do you guys think about that? Osinachi, I'd love to start with you since you are representing Africa on this panel.
Well, from my experience as someone who's been dealing in crypto for a while, I feel that it appeals more to the younger generation, and the reasons are clear, because there are hurdles that you have to go through when you're dealing with these traditional financial institutions, right? And young people actually see crypto as a way to sort of get around these and do what they need to do faster, right? It's also an investment tool for a lot of young people back in Nigeria and I'm sure across Africa, because when you're talking about Naira or you're talking about the Pula, the devaluation is like crazy, right? But then when it comes to crypto, you show that the money you're holding actually holds its value and can, over time, if you are, of course, fortunate, grow and make more money for you. So people are going into it mostly because of that. And of course, the central banks across the continent, they have their concerns. But really have to work with the young people here.
Yeah. Yeah, what about you, Jenny? I mean, you have your own currency, effectively. How do you feel about this?
So I think, in a way, like what we discussed the other day. So for our currency, in a way, is we use in our kind of ecosystem, right? But you could, of course, swap into other currency. It's very easy to buy, but it's really for our in-game. We have a tokenomics in terms of how to use our currency within our ecosystem. That's how usually for project how it works. But of course, there's also lots of stable coins. People are buying. So I think there's a lot of potential for countries that's like compared to like inflation, all that. They're actually right now the currency is not as stable as the crypto. So that's why there are a lot of El Salvador. There are a lot of South American countries are getting into this for a reason, trying to replace their current country currency into digital one.
Yeah, I mean. When we think of crypto, at least I tend to think about something that you invest in and it sits around for a while. We don't picture, using whatever currency to go buy a jug of milk. How do you think that application would happen? David, maybe you can talk about this as our local crypto investor.
Sure. Yeah, I started my fund about 8 months ago, investing in like early stage blockchain crypto startups, and a lot of the startups are actually working on this exact issue, right? So how people do it right now is that, as you know, Bitcoin as a storage of value can carry a lot of intrinsic value that's deflationary against the dollar that actually holds a lot of value, and it actually has almost doubled in value every year since its founding in 2009. So what people do right now is you utilize something called a stablecoin, which is backed against the dollar, but it's crypto native and it's done on chain where it can very easily be sent to a counterparty or merchant or used as a factor of payment, or you can simply hold Bitcoin, and like Bitcoin is widely accepted, at least from where I work in my exchange, across 170 countries. So you can take your Bitcoin literally to any country across the world, and you know that someone locally can convert your Bitcoin to the local currency. And whenever you need to buy something, you just sell off some of your Bitcoin and you can buy any typical physical goods there is, right? And as Jenny mentioned earlier, a lot of these weaker currencies are losing a lot of value as a standard for just paying and as a facilitator for payment, because ultimately a lot of these currencies, because it's unstable, people are no longer holding the native currency and instead holding in crypto, which actually helps accrue value, and also you can hold the stable coin actually that gives you access to the dollar.
Also, there are a lot of Visa card company as well. That people are using just as a credit card. It's like a payment, and they do like OTC. So if you hold crypto, you could still use the card as a free daily buy the milk. So it's a lot of option right now out there. But definitely in Web3 is still very, very new. That's why in US you have regulation. It's like very people at SEC like monitor the space as well to protect like the general public, so they don't get scammed. So there are a lot of bigger platform, they have those type of service. You could see people are swiping their card, but actually that they're doing like a OTC, so from crypto to fiat. Yeah.
And this might be a contrarian view. Like most people in crypto actually right now, they don't hold any like physical cash whatsoever, right? Like pretty much my entire holding is in crypto itself, and like there's plenty of things that actually accept crypto in just like agencies, or like even if I had to buy a flight or book a hotel, there's crypto native platforms that actually allow you to do that already, and that's going to be expedited through like going to grocery market, buying milk, and everything can be done in a very crypto native way that we never actually even need to cash out, especially like when we talk about things in the metaverse where everything, there's no like US dollar versus euros or like British pound, everything is going to be done in crypto, and everything that you actually interact within the metaverse where we're going to be spending much, much more of our time in the virtual world, and that's sort of the crypto native currency is actually going to be crypto itself.
Right, so we're almost out of time here, but I really want to touch on one of the most important issues today, which is inequality of all different types. With something that is totally destabilized, decentralized, do you think that crypto has the chance to help level the playing field, or do you see it exacerbating existing inequalities?
Yeah, I think it has a chance to level the playing field. I think that based on what we're doing at Socialstack, using social tokens, to sort of create this impact, positive impact across the world. So, for example, a celebrity could decide to tell his fans to go do these good deeds and show the results, and I'll give you some of my social tokens. Now, them earning these social tokens, they can actually convert these social tokens to the native currency. And I feel that it's a way to sort of build wealth in a way that we haven't seen before, especially across Africa. So you can actually monetize this, and this can be done through crypto.
Yeah, I think ultimately the word inequality actually in crypto is best, I guess, represented by a couple of members on our team who are actually anonymous, right? Like no one actually knows who they are.
That's crazy.
Yeah, whether a girl or guy, and I think ultimately it's like
wild.
Very meritocratic itself, right? Like it's really based on like the work that they do, their online identity, and they have a massive, massive online following without anyone actually knowing who they are, right? Like one of the guys is like a dropout from college, like no one would respect his opinion if everyone knew he's just a 19-year-old kid sitting behind a computer, but his thoughts actually go viral on a day-to-day basis because he doesn't have sort of that persona attached to him where he went to school, or like where his work ethic was, like what sort of education background he comes from. It's really just inherently based on like what he has to say, like how he contributed, and also like his own online persona that's actually massively more scalable when it's anonymous than when it's himself, like talking as an individual.
It's quite interesting. If you ever watch Ready Player One, you have an avatar. Even right now for Twitter to integrate with like wallet to your profile picture, if you have an A, it's almost in a way when people look at it, that's a way to know you're wealthy. Without like they don't need to know who you actually were, but by owning that piece of NFT already show you're part of a club. So in a way, like NFT at the very beginning, really about democratizing. Because if you're able to, lots of people talk about the DAO, right? This organization. Everyone has a say when they own something and to make decisions. So there's a lot of very interesting way. But coming from like also a VR company perspective, I think in the world is quite interesting. We had this when I was like doing research at Harvard. We did this education way. How younger kids, because in the real world they go to playground, right? People get bullied. Little kids even judge you by your color, where you're coming from, if you have a dad or mom. But in Metaverse, you could be very cute zebra or monkeys, and there's a sense of like harmony in the Web3 that. Because digital assets empower people in so many ways, more expressive. That's why people play game at the very beginning, because they might be a nerdy guy in the real life, but in that game, they can be someone else. And I think, in a way, I feel it's really increased the understanding among humanity. I'm able to have a better conversation without looking at the physical person, but just, even just the avatar. Maybe the conversation will be way smoother than, in real life, so.
Well, I think that is a very optimistic way of looking at it. I mean, you could also see it conversely as like a sort of catfishing, but we don't have time to unpack that. So I just want to thank you guys so much for joining me today on stage for this really wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.